It's beginning. Texas AG raids homes of Latino civil rights group members setting up a voting rights showdown. LULAC has been registering Hispanics to vote in Texas. And for reasons that are definitely not political, the extremely partisan Texas AG, who has said that he would support anti-sodomy laws if the Supreme Court allowed him to, has raided their homes. The raids have triggered outrage and cries of voter suppression in a state with a long history of discrimination against citizens of Mexican descent, which helped give rise to LULAC. What a coinkydink. The August 20th raids targeted Manuel Medina, chair of the Tejano Democrats, several members of the League of United Latin American Citizens, a state house candidate, and local area mayor. God damn. Incorrect. If you do not vote in more than 2 federal elections in some states, they'll unregister you for the upcoming election. Really? I didn't know. Okay, that's insane. Okay, I guess you get automatically unregistered sometimes, just for funsies. You should always check your registration. Medina's home was forcibly entered in the early morning of August 20th. Officers woke up Medina, his wife, and 2 young daughters and rummaged through the residence for 7 hours, the attorney said, searching through the living spaces, closets, kitchen, bathroom, garage, and the family's bedrooms. Officers seized 65 cell phones and 41 computers and storage devices, the filing said. 2 Democrat consultants who weren't knowledgeable about Medina's business through the investigation said someone running an election phone banking or canvassing operation can have multiple phones or computers for volunteers and staff. Jesus. Ken Paxton, who announced the raids Thursday in a news release, has been outspoken in advancing baseless claims about voter fraud, particularly about non-citizens voting in the upcoming election. Let's see the news release. AG Ken Paxton's Criminal Investigation Division executes search warrants in Frio, an ongoing election integrity investigation. Okay, so this always remember shit like this when Republicans say, dude, we're not racist against Hispanics, we're just concerned about illegal immigrants / illegal voters. And then they start like raiding the homes of people, registering those people to vote. They're registering people to vote, man. Always Democrats, of course. Okay, nice. So they're not even providing any specific accusations. They're just saying that these raids were conducted as part of an ongoing election integrity investigation. You know what that means? For somebody like Ken Paxton, who lies as often as he breathes, not giving a specific reason and just saying that it's part of an ongoing election integrity investigation means from the basis that there's no intention of treating this as anything other than a targeted partisan attack. Like, this is a naked display of power designed to intimidate and agitate people who are trying to get Latins or people of Hispanic descent or whatever registered to vote. That's it. There's not even an attempt to hide it. I bet no charges are even going to be filed. I bet they just wanted to have a legal pretext to burst on in there, steal their phones and computers and all the equipment they need to do this voter registration business, and then skedaddle. That's it. There's a reason Joe Biden brought people here illegally, Ken Paxton, a state attorney general, said on a radio show earlier this month. I'm convinced that that's how they're going to do it this time. They're going to use the illegal vote. I thought that's how they did it in 2016 and 2020. You said it both times. Why were they brought in? Why did he bring in 14 million people? He brought them here to vote. Again, Attorney General of Texas, the 2nd largest state in the union. Ken Paxton would legitimately like see you out of the cattle cars to the death camp. 100%. Literally, what kind of AG says he would enforce sodomy laws? Like 100%, 1,000,000%, he would send you to the gas chambers. In the release announcing the raids, Paxton said his office would have no further comments on the investigation. Yeah, of course, because it's just an attempt to attack them. There's literally no mechanism in the U.S. law to punish a politician for deliberately violating law like that. Yeah, it should. In a good country, he should be arrested for doing this. Like, there should be an immediate investigation triggered for, like, the blatant partisan electoral disenfranchisement that this search represents. But there isn't, you know, because we're not in a real country. It's a fake country. The release did state the raids were the result of a 2-year investigation based on allegations of voting and election violations from Audrey Gossett-Lewis, a district attorney for 5 area counties. Just a second. I'm just gonna... This person's small enough that they don't even have a Wikipedia page. I was just curious if they were known for something in particular. Latino leaders have called on the Department of Justice to investigate and are alleging the raids are a political move to suppress Latino votes. A Justice Department spokesperson said they are aware of the matter but declined to comment. That's interesting. They probably can't comment. If they're just a spokesperson, they can't, like, weigh in on it, obviously. Aware of the matter is interesting. It is disgraceful and outrageous the state of Texas and its highest-ranking law enforcement officer is once again using the power of his office to instill fear in the hearts of community members who volunteer their time to promote civic engagement. I really hope this backlashes. I really, really, really hope this backlashes. And this just gets more people registered to vote because they're like, wow, Ken Paxton literally wants to like prevent you from voting, you know? This is some like Jim Crow shit. This is some poll tax shit. Apparently this Audrey lady just had petitions to remove her that other judges just shot down. Petition of removal against 81st Judicial Attorney has been dismissed by a judge. A petition of removal filed by an Atascosa County resident against 81st has been dismissed by a judge. Ernest Trevino, a retired police officer, told KSAT he filed the petition because he was fed up with the DA. She's been committing crimes for years and years, and no one will investigate her. And then it was dismissed? Okay, so just some, like, hog with a fat neck who's mad at her, probably. Sonic fan, you don't need to repeat the question every time. It's okay. I saw it the first time. Woody, likewise. You don't need to say it every time, okay? It's fine. I saw it and I ignored it willingly. I chose to, because I'm doing a stream right now. Okay? I saw it. I always see. Worth mentioning, Paxton is still under federal investigation. It doesn't mean anything, man. The DOJ takes forever to do anything, and nothing ever comes of it, you know? There's no teeth. It's, what's that thing? The government has all the power in the world when it comes to, like, marginalizing Latin voters in Texas, you know? If Ken Paxton wants to intimidate voters in Texas, he can literally just send cops to their door and them up with no consequences, you know? But if you want to investigate Ken Paxton doing that, that's like a 17-year-long investigation by the DOJ, at the end of which they do nothing because it would be politically disastrous for them to attempt anything, you know? Cecilia Castellano, a candidate for State House District 80, said she was served a search warrant for her phone just after 6 a.m. on the same day as the others. Medina is working on Castellano's campaign. I was still asleep and I was woken up by my doorbell and then a hard knock. I went to the front door and I have these flashlights flashing into my home. 9 armed officers at the door. Extremely normal way of handling an investigation like this, you know? Definitely not deliberate intimidation. Still in her nightgown, Martinez asked to change clothes after a group of armed men and women with riot badges, with police shields and police badges and riot shields and a search warrant barged into her house. Instead, she was forced to sit in her dining room answering questions while the agents rummaged through for 4 hours through just about everything in her 2-bedroom home. 2 officers stood guard over her. They searched everything, my underwear, my brassieres, my nightgowns, everything. They went into my garage, they opened up my car, they went through my whole car, my whole garage, my refrigerator, my kitchen cabinets, everything. For half an hour, she was made to stand outside her home, still in her nightgown, where neighbors could see while the officers searched her dining area. They said they would not tell her what they were looking for and questioned her for 4 hours, asking her about Manuel Medina and when she joined LULAC. They left with her appointment book, cell phone, laptop, blank voter registration cards, and her certificate for completing a voter registration course. Man, it really seems like they're just trying to prevent her from registering Latin people to vote. You know? It really seems like that's the only purpose of this. And, like, we're literally seeing political bullying right out of, like, late 19th century New York, you know? We're getting like Carnegie Hall shit. Remember they did something similar in Florida? Yep, I fully remember. What is LULAC? It's an org trying to register Hispanic people to vote.
Welcome back to America Decides. An 87-year-old woman who says her home was raided by officials as part of the Texas Attorney General's investigation into allegations of voter fraud tells CBS News.
Oh yeah, I had this link as well. Texas removes 1 million people from voter rolls. This was yesterday. Greg Abbott was bragging about this on Twitter. Over 1 million ineligible people from our voter rolls have been removed, including non-citizens, deceased voters, and people who moved to another state. 100%. This is just this has deregistered a significant number of valid voters in mostly Democrat areas. 100%, 1 million %. About half the voters removed have died, requests to be taken off, or are living in another state based on figures from the governor's office. Nearly 7,000 were non-citizens who had registered illegally. Proof? Proof? And about 6,000 were convicted felons unable to vote. About 500,000 were on what Texas calls its suspense list, where counties place voters who don't respond to requested certification forms. I wonder if these certification forms are, like, disproportionately issued in areas that tend to vote Democrat, giving a pretext for removing voters from voter registration. Critics argue it disproportionately affects voters of color, voters with disabilities.
News, those operations, quote, scared the hell, unquote, out of her. Lydia Martinez, a longtime member of the League.
How bad is this? Extremely bad. Like, the Republicans are really trying to steal the election. I'm getting worried. They are. They did last time. This happened in Texas last time. Texas would be a swing state, or possibly even a blue state, if it wasn't for concerted efforts by state Republicans to constantly shut down, you know, and deregister people.
of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, says officers questioned her for hours, confiscated her phone and computer, and made her wait outside while searching her residence.
I said, let me get dressed. And she says, no, go outside.
What were you wearing?
My nightgown, and I had all these policemen around me. It was embarrassing, humiliating. I was so angry. It was horrible.
Texas Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton's office said last week it is investigating what it said were allegations that some organizations in Texas have in the past unlawfully registered non-citizens to vote or engaged in what they described as vote harvesting. Paxton's office has not responded to LULAC's claims that these searches are illegal or its demands for the Justice Department to investigate the tactics of the Attorney General's investigators. Nydia Cavazos is in San Antonio and joins us now. Nydia, you were with our colleague Omar Villafranca during that interview. What else did you learn in the course of that conversation?
Major, good afternoon. Yesterday, when we were able to talk to Lydia, she's the 87-year-old.
Can you imagine the backlash to this if in a lightly blue state, the Democrat AG engaged in this behavior and did completely baseless raids on Republican voter registration orgs while simultaneously unregistering large swaths of predominantly rural yeah, the right would threaten civil war. There would legitimately be people with guns marching in protest. 100%, yeah. I bet you the Democrats are barely even going to give this attention. Remember when Ken Paxton said Trump would have lost Texas if he didn't step in to block shit? Yeah. It genuinely could not be more transparent than it is. Ken Paxton literally said, hey, if I hadn't rigged the election for you in Texas, Democrats would have won. By blocking legitimate ballots for Joe Biden, I was able to get you the win. If we'd lost Harris County, Trump won by 620,000 votes in Texas. Harris County mail-in ballots that they wanted to send out were 2.5 million. Those were all illegal, citation needed, and we were able to stop every one of them, Paxton told former Trump advisor Steve Bannon during the latter's War Room podcast on Friday. By Ken Paxton's own admission, the Democrats would have won Texas by a massive margin.
Old woman out of San Antonio, Texas. We also learned that part of what was confiscated during the raid last week was Lydia's voter certificate, voter registration certificate. This is a license that officially allows her to help out other people to register to vote here in the state of Texas. Now, this is part of Lydia's profession. This is what she dedicates her free time to helping out senior citizens and veterans in the state of Texas. But she says that she doesn't necessarily have a date as to when she will be getting her things back, including her license, her phone, her computer, everything that was confiscated. And so this officially limits her ability to continue to work in the state of Texas. And she says this, above all, is also one of the major disappointments. She doesn't necessarily know if she's going to be able to do this before Election Day in 2024.
This is just another blatant illegal act that'll take years to work out in court. Yeah, I really wish the DOJ would work with the confidence and assurity and speed that Ken Paxton works, you know? Listen, day one, Ken Paxton raids LULAC organizers. Day two, DOJ raids Ken Paxton's house. You know, I feel like, dude, can you imagine if they did a raid and were given a quick warrant to try to find any data on Ken, any emails or phone logs where he admitted he's only doing this because they're worried that too many people are going to vote blue in Texas? You realize what that would do, right? Because that 100% exists. Guaranteed, somewhere out there, there are text messages or emails where Ken Paxton admits that the only reason this raid is being conducted is because they want to suppress voter registration. If they did it like that.
And Nydia, did she address, that is to say, Lydia, the underlying investigatory allegations that she somehow did something wrong? Did she address what the concerns are and what her conduct has been?
What's really missing for Lydia and for others that we've been speaking to here on the ground is the why. They don't necessarily know why they were targeted, why they were part of this raid, and what relationship whatsoever they have to this investigation. We know that all of this is part of the Election Integrity Unit from the Paxton's office, and this is a unit that was created back in 2020 in the aftermath of Trump's loss in 2020.
Wow, that's definitely not a politically motivated organization, you know? where they lost the election and immediately created an organization to guarantee that at the very least Texas never goes blue.
And also claiming widespread voter fraud across the country. And so these people are trying to figure out what exactly is their role and if they're going to be able to gather their stuff back and have it in time to also continue doing the work they were doing as community leaders here in San Antonio.
Worth noting that those allegations of widespread national voter fraud in 2020 were never, ever legally substantiated. CBS News first obtained a letter from LULAC to the Department of Justice. Nydia, what does it reveal?
In this letter that CBS obtained, LULAC has officially asked the Justice Department for a federal investigation to investigate Ken Paxton's office, as they are claiming that these searches are unconstitutional.
What we really need, and I've mentioned this before, but there needs to be a way to directly charge somebody with a crime for enacting a law or legislation that is unlawful. The problem is that right now, if a judge or an AG or whatever does something that violates the law, the most you can do is smack the law down. They need to be smacked down. It needs to be possible to file felony charges against Ken Paxton if evidence is found that he did something for an unlawful reason. You know, you could find, like, you know, passing of a unlawful law with malicious intent. I don't know. Find a way to legalese that. But right now, every day across the country, there are literally hundreds of operatives of the Republican Party knowingly abusing their power because they know the very worst thing that could happen to them is 3 years later, a judge who isn't like a Trumpite overturns their decision. And by then it's too late. The election is in 9 weeks. We don't need deliberation for 57 years on whether or not Ken Paxton knowingly violated the law in an effort to disenfranchise voters.
Institutional, and it is called point-blank voter intimidation. On one side, of course, we have claims that this is potential voter fraud, but LULAC is certain that this is just another tactic from Paxton's office in efforts to intimidate voters and to undermine
the due process. That is due process. Ken Paxton would be entitled to the same rights of legal defense as anyone else accused of a crime. You have right now there is more evidence that Ken Paxton is deliberately suppressing votes than there is that LULAC is engaging in illegal voter registration, okay? If Ken Paxton gets to send officers to people's door and raid their house for 7 hours over that, I think the DOJ should get to raid his house for 8 hours. There's more evidence for it. Get his phones, get his computer, fuck up his job. Find the evidence. The evidence exists. I guarantee you that motherfucker emails where they're like, yeah, we need to do something to stop all this voter registration.
The role that Latino voters will have in the state of Texas for the general elections and also across down ballot races in November.
Nydia Cavazos coming to us from San Antonio. Thank you very, very much.
Cool.
And there's an election uproar brewing in Texas with a voting rights organization calling for a federal investigation. The League of United Latin American Citizens, or LULAC, is accusing the state's Republican Attorney General of voter intimidation after authorities raided the homes of its volunteers over allegations of voter fraud. CBS's Omar Villafranca spoke with some of those whose homes were searched.
They scared the hell out of me.
87-year-old Lydia Martinez, who says she is LULAC's longest-serving volunteer, had her home raided as part of a voter fraud investigation. The raid comes after State Attorney General Ken Paxton recently announced an investigation into allegations of election fraud and vote harvesting, which began in 2022. The state house seat, and says officers executed a search warrant at her home.
Yeah, we got the gist. Still can't believe she's 87. Yeah, being a Democrat, you know, really keeps you young. Really empowers you. What the fuck is vote harvesting even supposed to mean? I think vote harvesting is when people wasn't it when people did mail-in ballots, but rather than mailing them themselves, a person would go door to door. And no, it's when you go door to door and you have people registered. Wait, I forget. They used it to mean a few different things. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily.
Susan Rice,
I remember it getting used in a
former
few
President
contexts back in
Obama's
2020.
key advisor.
They're scrambling to find scary terms for, like, regular, normal things. Ballot harvesting is the process of gathering absentee ballots and delivering them to polling places. Learn if it's legal in your state. Scary buzzword. To help increase voter turnout starting in the mid-1980s, Billy Leo hired campaign workers to engage elderly residents and help them vote by mail. Such campaign workers came to be known as politiqueras. though Leo moved away from the term when it became associated with unscrupulous strategies such as paying for votes, his wife said. So yeah, it's literally just like inspired in large part by the unverified claims of voter fraud by former President Trump and his allies following the 2020 election. The Texas legislature enacted one of the largest rewrites of election laws. Known as Senate Bill 1, it barred local election officials from sending unsolicited applications to request a mail-in ballot, even to people who automatically qualify to vote by mail. The law was established new rules for assisting voters with mail-in ballots, requiring the assisting person to fill out paperwork disclosing their relationship to the voter. It was literally just, let's make it harder for no reason because that'll suppress votes. That's it. That's it. It's it. There's no reason for it. No evidence has been found of illegally cast votes. It's not a thing that's happening. It's all fake. Do you think suppressing these types of mobile/mail-in votes is worse for the GOP than Dems? No. They very specifically choose laws that disproportionately affect Democrats. They wouldn't, if a law for voter disenfranchisement would disproportionately affect Republicans, they don't pass it. They know exactly what they're doing. It's because Republicans know if we had 100% voter turnout, they never win again. Yep. Yep, yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yeppers. Ooh, yep, yep, yep.
The other thing our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago,
why so quiet,
13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she...
Wake up, Benghazi 2 just dropped. It literally is Benghazi 2. What, 13 Americans? They mean the ones who died in that suicide bombing attack at that airport. And I really hope something comes of this. Speaking of attempts to steal the election, and by the way, again, that is what it is, okay? Like, I think that morally and consequentially speaking, the attempts in Texas and Georgia and elsewhere that we're seeing are on the same level as if they were sending armed soldiers to D.C., like, to prepare for a storming of the Capitol if they lose the election. Consequentially, whether it's done by, like, you know, bureaucratic ballot fiddling or election suppression or by, like, an armed mob, the outcome is effectively the same, you know? It's a coup attempt. And all these people should be tried for treason. We know what the consequences for being found guilty for treason are, don't we, folks? Yes, we do. They're not good. You don't want to be found guilty of treason. That's not a good holiday experience. Georgia Governor Kemp asked State AG if he can oust pro-Trump election board members amid ethics concerns election law changes. If it was a Democrat, or sorry, if it was a real Republican governor, because he is a Republican governor, but if it was a real Republican governor, he would just do it. For those of you who don't know, 3 of the 5 members of the Georgian election board are not only pro-Trump, they are like militantly, partisanly pro-Trump, and Trump has personally called their names out and said they're doing great work. And they have changed the rules such that they can effectively, without cause, investigate and question the legitimacy of certain voting results. They're the ones whose job it is to certify the election results. Again, it is consequentially the same as if they were sending troops to, like, you know, wait out in buildings in D.C. Where's that clip of Trump directly shouting them out? It's crazy. I need you guys to know, normally presidential candidates do not shout out by name the specific members of a certain state's election board committee. People on an election board committee are supposed to be nameless bureaucrats. They are not voted in. They are just, they are not, like, you know, it's very weird. I really, really, really want to find that clip. Can somebody find it? The one where he names the 3 of them? Here we go. Is this it?
The other side.
That was from last night's opening act for the Harris-Walz announcement speech. That was the mega-talented Josh Shapiro, governor.
No, it's not that one. Vosh this. Oh, I love it when you guys find stuff for me because I'm really bad at it.
But the Georgia State Election Board is in a very positive way. This is a very positive thing, Marjorie. They're on fire. They're doing a great job. 3 members. Janice Johnson, Rick Jeffries, and Janelle King. 3 people. are all pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. They're fighting.
Can you get more transparent than this? Like, genuinely, can you get more transparent than this? Is he sped up? I don't know, maybe. Alleged ethic violation, code 4510-4. We've sought the AG's advice regarding the application of the statute to the letters. Is it possible he's trying to pressure them into something when they're not currently nominated? No. Those three are loyalists. Those three are... There's no ambiguity about it. Those three are going to contest any results that favor Kamala Harris in Georgia. That's it. That is their job. That is what they're there to do, you know? Donald Trump shouting them out directly because he's an idiot, thus giving attention to the plan, you know? But again, like, we can't coexist with these people. We need to always be on our A game, calling out and identifying any number of the 1,000 plots they have to steal the election. And it's like, you know, they have to slip up 1,000 times. We only have to slip up once. And democracy ends if they win, you know? We literally cannot coexist with them. There needs to be like a broad across-the-board mass arrest of these people. All of them. For a sedition against the United States. And I mean, I'm not joking and I'm not engaging in deliberately inflammatory language. They are literally operatives collaborating in an effort to end democracy, steal the election, and democracy. Like, genuinely, it's the problem is that when this rhetoric is used, it's usually by Tim Pool types, where Tim Pool will see like, oh, California passed a pro-trans law, civil war, like, you know, like that, who just use it as like a buzzword to drive up engagement. I mean, in this case, I mean it. It is seditious. It is treasonous. It genuinely is. What more can you take from it? It's like at every level, they are all coordinating to do this. He did it again. Oh yeah, I saw this one. He did it again. Speaking of how obvious can you get?
The former president has a newly released interview tonight with TV's Dr. Phil McGraw, who's shown himself to be quite the sympathetic interviewer when it comes to Donald Trump. It's billed as part one of a two-part interview. Tomorrow's will be with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Hurry it up.
Here's the former president trying to...
You a lot.
For now.
They demonize you a lot. They make a big deal out of the fact that you said you're only going to have to vote one time.
Yeah.
You, like me, you're only going to have to vote one time.
Can we hold on? Let's find that clip again, just because, you know, we love the full context in our segments. This was Trump very intelligently. Yeah, here we go. That one's easy to find.
If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to.
It's really funny because he's attacked early votes like continuously, but apparently only when Democrats are doing it.
Get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a...
Like, Jesus Christ.
Christian, I love you. Get it.
I'm not Christian. People in chat were arguing with me on this one. They were saying that Donald Trump said, I'm a Christian. This is him saying, I'm not Christian. Even though Christians love to pretend he's Christian, he obviously isn't. He doesn't know the Bible. He's never been to church. He doesn't care. But he's just saying shit.
Anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian.
Literally shaking his head as he says it.
I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
You're wrong. I don't know why people die in this hill. Him saying I'm not Christian is the most obvious thing in the world. I have no idea why. He's obviously not. He's clearly not Christian. You don't actually believe he's Christian, do you? Why wouldn't he say he's not Christian? He's like 80 years old and he rambles. Why would he say? Why wouldn't he? Because he rambles. Why would he say you only have to vote one more time? Let's hear him say it again.
Ever, or whatever your quote was.
You won't have to vote anymore.
Oh, okay, all right.
Christians.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
Christians, I'm a Christian.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
Get out. You gotta get out.
I'm trying to skip it.
Don't vote.
There we go.
And with a smile, Christians.
Why can I not buffer in this? There we go.
You know why that was? It said, and with a smile. Christians, for whatever reason, don't vote very much, you know, proportionately. NRA people and people that feel very strongly about the Second Amendment, they're not voters.
What?
I don't know why. Maybe it's a rebellious streak. And I said to the Christians,
I wish.
We got to win this election. If we win this election, I'll straighten everything out in less than 4 years by a lot. then you don't have to, it doesn't matter. In other words, I'm saying you don't have to vote. Doesn't mean we're not going to have elections. You're going to have elections, but you have to vote this time.
He said it again, man. He said it again.
Back now with CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings and Adam Kinzinger. Congressman Kinzinger, I mean, if someone was concerned before about the former president telling Christians they'd never have to vote again if they voted for him on Election Day, is this new explanation going to put their minds at ease?
Probably not. I mean, I thought that they were kind of picking up on Trump saying that was a bit of a overkill.
Of course you do. Thank you, CNN. That's great, CNN. That guy's a Republican? Yes. That is true. More evidence that these people are just evil. Oh, Jesse Waters? Oh, yeah, Jesse Waters is a freak. This is the guy who bragged about, like, what was it? The girl he married, he, like, broke her car down to... What was it again? He, like, pretended that her car was broken to force her to stay with him. Punctured her tires, that's right. So she needed a ride. There we go. Thank you, thank you.
This is where the president has his most impact. You have a lot of room to maneuver there as commander-in-chief. We don't know who she is. We don't know what she believes. She's going to get paralyzed in the Situation Room while the generals have their way with her. Right now...
Jesse Waters.
Jesse, I don't like that.
Figuratively, again.
Take it back.
Have their way with her. Control her. Not in a sexual way.
Jesse Waters would be... He of all the Republicans I can think of, he is the most American Psycho, you know? I think that he nails that better than, like, almost any of them. He's right there. He's right on the money. He says worse shit later. Keep watching. That was the end of the clip that I was provided. Well, no, funny rhetorician. The coup plot in Georgia has to do with certification of the voter count, not like the polling that's being done. He gives off serial rapist / killer energy. Yeah, for sure. Do you think Fox will let him go? Why would Fox let him go? Don't forget that story about him slashing his subordinates' tires or whatever. Were you here 2 minutes ago? Judge blocks Biden administration from granting legal status to immigrant spouses of U.S. citizens. A federal judge in Texas on Monday... Oh, in Texas, really? In Texas? That's crazy. Temporarily blocked the Biden administration from granting legal status to unauthorized immigrants married to American citizens, granting a request from 16 Republican-led states who challenged the new policy. Voter suppression starts at home? Yeah, apparently. I didn't know judges ruled the country. Oh, don't worry, they don't. Only Republican judges. Only Republican judges do. Only Republican judges hold up the entire system or get their insane shit thrown in there because they know there's no consequences, and even if it gets overturned eventually, by then it'll be too late, you know? Why can they do away with this? Why can they get away with this? Because there's literally no consequence to doing it. There is absolutely none. He's already a federal judge. What do you think he's, like, concerned about not getting bumped up in the future, you know? I don't know. I would hope there are some guardrails to prevent this. That would be nice. Unfortunately, our system of checks and balances kind of relies on the assumption that everyone participating is acting in good faith. If you have one half of the political body that is acting in deliberate bad faith and chooses to break the rules over and over, there's actually no mechanism for dealing with that at all.
Judge has temporarily blocked the Biden administration's plan to grant legal status to undocumented immigrant spouses of American citizens. The policy could offer an easier legal pathway to citizenship for about 500,000 people. 16 Republican-led states sued the Biden administration last week to block the government from approving applications, arguing the president needs congressional approval to implement such a policy. A Trump-appointed judge sided with those states Monday, temporarily pausing the process for thousands of migrant spouses while the district...
Hey, Vosh, you're a poli-sci guy. Why were the founding fathers so stupid to not put any guardrails in? Liberals. That's it. Literally that. Poisoned by Enlightenment thinking. They failed to understand that ideology and interest are determined by class position, and for that reason, you will eventually arrive at a position where people's interest pulls them away from reality, you know? Keep in mind the only people who could vote back then were wealthy, land-owning white males, right? All those people were pretty politically keyed in. They couldn't have fathomed what democracy would look like today.
Court considers the challenge. CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camila Montoya Galvez.
They basically thought the Constitution would always be, like, interpreted and reinterpreted by an elite cast of enlightened gentlemen scholars who would, like, you know, carry forward the Enlightenment thinking and do what they thought best for the nation. This didn't work even in their time, but that was, like, the presumption, I think, in a lot of cases. So they were idiots. Well, they were naive in the way liberals often are, yeah.
Now, Camilo, Remind us again of the administration policy and why Biden was pushing for it.
Hi, John. This is one of the major immigration actions that President Biden took in June. As you know,
this guy looks like, what's his name? Dan Herschel, the Twitter guy, the guy on the highway overpass with the sign saying, "I am not a pedophile." Cocky go boing boing. Doesn't he a little bit?
President Biden issued an executive order that has severely curtailed access to the U.S. asylum system along the U.S.-Mexico border, and that officials have credited for a sharp drop in illegal border crossings. But he also issued an executive order also in June that created this program that allows the unauthorized immigrant spouses of American citizens to apply for temporary legal status in the U.S., but perhaps
Here, hold on 1 second. This guy, when a Republican judge blocks Joe Biden's immigration executive order. As you can see, he's very upset.
Importantly, John, it also grants them a more streamlined process to get permanent residency and eventually, after a few years, U.S. citizenship under that sponsorship by their U.S. citizen spouse. Right now, John, anyone who marries a U.S. citizen, an immigrant who marries a U.S. citizen, is generally eligible to get a green card, but people who have entered the country illegally, including across the U.S.-Mexico border, usually have to go back to their home country and come back to the U.S. legally to get that green card. But in that process, they can actually trigger a 10 or 3-year ban from the U.S. because they have been here in the U.S. illegally for some time. That
we have such a good system, man.
Is a dilemma that is created by U.S. laws dating back to the 1990s. And so this program was designed to prevent that from happening and to allow these families to get permanent legal status without having to leave the country and potentially facing separation. And that is the Biden administration's argument, its main argument at least, for this policy, that it promotes family unity. But as you underscored, Texas and other Republican-controlled states are saying that this program rewards illegal immigration because it benefits people who are in the country illegally. And they also believe that the humanitarian parole authority that the administration is citing to justify this program does not allow the president to create a categorical class-based program for hundreds of thousands of people who are in the country without legal status, John.
And so then briefly, what happens now in this case?
Well, it's very important to note, John, that the judge in this case did not rule on the merits of the legal arguments presented by Texas and the other Republican-led states. Instead, he issued an administrative clause that prevents the Department of Homeland Security from approving any new applications under this policy for the time being, for at least 2 weeks, 14 days. But he did suggests in his order, John, that he is likely to extend that pause on the policy through at least October. So there is a real possibility.
Okay, whatever. Procedural bullshit. Melt all cars. Those were planes that were making those noises. I mean, agreed, but those were planes. I do hate loud planes. They do suck. Planes do suck. No one likes flying.